5,500 years ago, the Sumerian people of Mesopotamia developed the first system of writing, now called cuneiform. A reed was used to inscribe soft, damp clay tablets with various types of symbols. These inscriptions communicated the language of the day. They are the earliest human voices we hear. They connect us to a time and people that we could otherwise only imagine. These clay tablets give us a clear picture of society and culture at the beginning of civilization, as well as the character of the people, their beliefs and values. And now, Grant Peeples with Clay Tablets.
Well, I was about to go blind, straining my eyes, searching for some kind of sign of a change. But it's hard to swallow the truth. But man, I sure could use just a little bitty, a taste or two right now. There's never been a better time to raise your hands against your fathers. Burn a flag and lay some flowers upon the graves of our long forgotten martyrs. Well, I'm not saying I'm all in or nothing, no. I'm just searching for a sign. And it's hard to save yourself once you poison the well. Who you gonna call for help then? 'Cause once them wheels, they fall off and we start spinning for the wall, well, there ain't no soft way to land. I never dreamed I'd ever live to see the day that I'd see days like this. Did we just look up and all of a sudden find ourselves caught up in this big old fucking mess? I'm not saying I'm all in or nothing, no. I'm just searching for a sign. And everybody is waiting on somebody else to make that first move, but it's hard to start a revolution when your face is 6 feet from your television. You're all afraid to make that big decision. You keep on hoping for a sign, like maybe some virgin crack whore giving birth to a Christ child at a trailer park down near Mar-a-Lago, or a little black stable boy statue crying whiskey tears the front yard of the governor's mansion. Well, I'm not saying I'm all in or nothing, no. I'm just searching for a sign. I wanna know how much shocking all it takes to bring a nation right to its senses. Well, I can feel the change, it's coming soon, and I keep on hoping for a sign, any kind of sign. I'm searching, man, I really need myself a sign now, any kind of sign. I'm searching, yes, I really need myself a sign. That was Brother Bing Crosby on the horse, Little Corn Island, Nicaragua, 2012. As many of you know, Robinson Jeffers is my favorite poet, my most influential poet. And I met him through the philosopher Joseph Campbell. And Robinson Jeffers wrote a poem in the 1940s called Shine Republic, which to me is something of a love poem for the United States of America. There's a caveat in it. But and I did with this poem as I have done with other poets that I have admired. I took the poem and I actually came up with the song. And so you will hear in the song that I will play following this poem, you will hear some of the, see some of the iconography and hear some of the phrases. But this is called Shine Republic by Robinson Jeffers. The quality of the trees and their green height, and of the quality of the sky shining, and of water a clear flow, and of rock and its hardness. Each is noble in its own quality, as the love of freedom has been the quality of Western man. There is a stubborn torch that flames from Marathon to Concord, its dangerous beauty binding 3 ages into one time. The waves of barbarism and civilization have eclipsed it, but have never quenched it. For the Greeks, it was the love of beauty. For Rome, the love of ruling. For the present age, it is the passionate love of discovery. But in one noble passion, we are all just one, and Washington and Luther and Tacitus and Aeschylus are all just one kind of man. And you, America, that same passion made you. You were not born to prosperity. You were born to love freedom. You did say en masse. You did not say en masse. You said independence. But we cannot have all the luxuries and freedom as well. Freedom is poor and laborious. Freedom's torch is not safe, but rather hungry, and often requires blood for fuel. You will try to tame it so that it does not burn too clearly. You will hood it like a kept hawk, and you will perch it on the wrist of Caesar. But keep the tradition, conserve the forms and the observances, keep the spot sore, be great, carve deep your heel marks. The states of the next age will no doubt remember you and edge their love of freedom with contempt of luxury. This is Shine Republic Shine. From Marathon to Concord, the torches burn, blood for fuel. Well, liberty, she can be so cruel. Shine Republic Shine. Pave your way through the hearts of our wilderness. Let you goddamn the rivers of tenderness. Shine Republic Shine. In promenades and pageantry, your symbols turn to cold hard steel. Your fairy tales are good as real. Shine Republic Shine. With your obsession for Caesars and luxuries, and keeping all your children in custody. Shine Republic Shine. Shine Republic Shine. Pave your way through the hearts of our wilderness. Let you goddamn the rivers of tenderness. With Shine Republic Shine. Bitter is the taste of truth when blinded by things you can't see. you're swinging now from your own noose. Well, shine, Republic, shine. Just watch out for the ones who got nothing to lose. I tell you, we're not yet quite through with you. And shine, Republic, shine. Yeah, shine, Republic, shine. Pave your way through the hearts of our wilderness. Let your goddamn the rivers of tenderness. And shine, Republic, shine. Shine, Republic, shine. How we doing? Well, we're on a new platform this week, this month. We have moved to YouTube Live, so we're figuring out a few things here, and we're going to try to check in with our co-producer and my sidekick, Donna Mavity. Donna, have we got you on the line?
You do have me on the line. I'm sitting here on YouTube Live talking to you.
In Thomasville, Georgia.
In Thomasville, Georgia, right above Tallahassee.
How are things looking as far as the chat box goes? As people know, I don't read the chats while I'm up here. Is everybody seeming like they're getting it?
Yes, I think so. We've got a lot of people saying hello and a lot of camaraderie between the clay tableteers here.
Okay, well, very good. Well,
I'm happy to see we have some special folks here tonight, some radio folks I wanted to acknowledge tonight.
Please.
We have a lot of presenters here that play their gigs or hope to play their gigs someday.
Yeah.
We thank you for being here, but we have Fred Boning from WLDR in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We've got Jane Falvey from WRIU in Rhode Island, and Diana Ennis from KKFI in Kansas City. They've all either hosted Grant or played his music on their shows. So thank you for being here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for reading that. So just keep an eye on things, and we're just going to keep moving right along. I did want to ask you one thing. I wanted to ask you, how have things been in Thomasville as far as, we're seeing all kind of stuff on the news. I mean, what are the streets of Thomasville like? I mean...
Well, the two aspects. As far as COVID-19 goes, Georgia opened up, in my opinion, a little too soon. So the streets are back to normal. You can't walk down the middle anymore.
Right.
But we have had some peaceful demonstrations for Black Lives Matter where the police actually posted it on their Facebook page, and they actually accompanied the demonstrators. Wow. It was a good number for a small town. A lot of young people and signs, and that was really encouraging to me.
Well, thanks for that report. Hey, listen, what we're going to do now is I'm going to make a phone call here in a few minutes to my friend Carrie Elkin. But before we do that, I was wanting to Carrie. I saw she did a broadcast. She and Danny did a broadcast the other day for my girlfriend Ruth on her birthday at the Purple House concert. And she played a new song, and I after the show was over, I wrote her and asked her if she had recorded the song, and she said she had. And I said, well, can I play it on air, and would you come on and talk to me? And she said yes. So we have a recording here of a new song by Carrie Elkin, and its name, I can't remember the exact name of the song, but we'll get to that. But Pete, have you got that? We can play that song.
I've been indigo dying. I've been threading the needle. I've been sewing my future with embroidery stars. I've been framing a structure, trying to give it good meaning. I've been looking for space and slow stitching hearts. I've been trying to see something when they're saying nothing. I've been howling at the moon. I've been screaming at the sun. And the days are so long, and the work's never done. I've been planting a garden. I've been cutting begonias. I've been watching the nightingale building a home. I've been setting the table with my grandmother's linens. I've been painting the kitchen, baking up a storm. I've been trying to see something when I'm looking at nothing. I've been trying to hear something when they're saying nothing. I've been howling at the moon. I've been screaming at the sun. And these days are so long, and the work's never done. And the time's adding up. I feel all the fear stuff, and the trick of the light won't help us tonight. I've been pounding the beat to protect my family from all of the things that we cannot see. And it's all sinking in how sick we've all been from the lies being thrown to her paper being torn. Bring me peace, bring us peace, bring us all of the light we cannot see. Bring me peace, bring us peace, bring us all of the light we cannot see. I've been indigo dyeing, I've been threading the needle, I've been sewing my future with embroidery stars.
Wow.
Hello.
Hello, Carrie Elkin. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. We just listened to your song. Tell me, that song could have a half a dozen names. What is the official name of that song?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's called Embroidery Stars.
Uh-huh.
And it had some other names before that. It was a hard one to name.
The song, and I don't mean this critically at all, but the song starts out. It sounds like when I first heard it, like, oh, this is Carrie's feel-good pandemic song, This is how she's kind of figuring out who she is and what she wants to do and how everything's really not as bad as it seems. And then you get to the bridge of the song. Did the writing of it, when you were writing it, did you fall off the page with that? I mean, in other words, did it start out as that kind of like, okay, this is me grabbing a hold of myself and I'm sewing and I'm knitting and I'm baking and I'm planting a garden and then all of a sudden you kind of had a moment where that wasn't working?
Yeah. That it was the opposite of that. It started off as a very pissed off song. And turned into, oh my gosh, this is like this time I'm trying to learn how to deal with like the distress of this time and the confusion and the mixed messaging and I learned, like, for me the best way to cope with it was through self-compassion, and writing the song sort of led me to this place of, this is a really hard time, but I also have all of these amazing things in my life that I've been sort of bitching about not being able to do because I've been on the road for 15 years, and now here I am in my home, able to actually have a garden and do all of these beautiful homesteading things that I've wanted to do forever. And it's I believe it's such a part of my true nature. So the song came from a pissed off place and turned into a song that was also about feeling grateful for how beautiful how beautiful this time can be, this time of stillness and reflection and self-compassion.
Right. I think then what you're saying, and I think I hear this from songwriters a lot, and from poets, is that well, you know, I mean, how many times has somebody come up to you and say, you need to write a song about that? You know, like, this is a good song thing, right? You know, and I don't know if it's this way for you, but it doesn't really, you know, for me, the song it's about discovery, and it more than it is about, you know, like nailing something to the wall. And it seems to me that what you're saying is you really discovered something in the process.
That's exactly true. Yeah. And I agree with you that, you should write a song about that thing.
Right.
It's like, that's not the way it works.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. If you've co-written quite a bit with people, I mean, you've co-written some, I know, and
little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. If somebody, if one of let's say one of your besties, you know, somebody that you really believed in, called you up and said, "Hey, I've got this idea for a George Floyd song." I mean, would you let him in the house with that? Is that something that, I mean, do you feel that is a song that can even be written right now, or would that be something you would take on?
I would take it on. I think that I'm not good at writing in that way, but I found this week, you know, I've been taking 2 hours a day to write, which is something that I've never really done in my life. I've committed to this time, and I don't know, when you commit to that time to sit down to write, and I can't stop thinking about 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Like, that's like in a song of mine right now, you know, and that is, I don't want to write about that stuff sometimes. It's heartbreaking, and it, like, you know, but there's, the other day I said to Danny, my husband is Danny Schmidt. Many of you may know who he is. He's an incredible singer-songwriter. I was saying, like, there's just the songs are so dramatic right now. Like, I don't, but everything is just dramatic right now. There's nothing not dramatic about it. Like, it's just the way our world is. And so I guess to answer your question, yes, I would sit down to write that song, although I think it would be a hard one to co-write with someone.
Right. You know, It's interesting. Steve Pultz was on the show last month, and Steve Pultz is the guy that writes 2 songs between gigs and then goes and plays them at the. He's between. He wrote one time, coming from Jacksonville to Tallahassee, and he got here and he played it. But Steve said he hadn't written a song since March. Not to try to say what is the difference between you and Steve, but why have you been empowered by this? Why do you think your powers have somehow surfaced? And I have to tell you, for me, and there are a lot of other songwriters who are having this same kind of stage fright, I believe, from.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable right now, and I just realized that I have to be in it. Like we are all a part of it, and we all deal with it in different ways. Like I understand why some people aren't writing. Part of it for me is because I decided to commit to sit down for 2 hours a day and write songs, and that's what I do. I don't let myself get on my computer and email or watch a show or do any of that, and I'm an easily distracted human. I would like to be cleaning the house and doing stuff like that.
There's a lot around your house to distract you too, Carrie, I will add.
There is. Right. That's a good point. Yeah, having a 3-year-old also, which this has been really interesting because I was really afraid when we entered into this time to not get any time at all, because our daughter is usually in school 2 days a week. She's in preschool, and she's not now. And, Danny and I just sat down together, and I said, look, if I have 2 hours a day, I will have all the energy in the world for our family and the rest of my life, my existence. I just feel like I need to fill up for 2 hours a day by doing this thing that I have, quite frankly, just kind of looked past because I've just been performing and not being my best creative self. And it really has improved my relationships. I feel like my relationship with Danny is better, and my relationship with my friends, I feel so much more full, and I think that makes my relationship with the world better and just makes the world a better place when we're being true to ourselves. And that truth might be that people can't write right now. Yeah. It's this idea of radical acceptance of where we are and how we're coping with the situation, and that's where I'm at. So I don't know if I really answered your question.
No, you did.
Say that I made it a practice for myself, and one that has meant more to me than I ever thought it would. It's been a really hard time. I don't, every day. I don't ever say how are you right now. I say how are you today, because we are all. Every day for me is so different right now, and so some days I just want to crawl into a hole, and those 2 hours a day feel impossible, and some days I just feel so energized, and that's where I'm at with the writing.
Well, I salute you on your 2 hours, and so the short answer to that is, how did I? Why is it Grant? It's because I work at it, and that is really that would really be the answer to your question. And I just got one more question for you before we go. So yeah, the song has a lot of there's a lot of beautiful narrative in that song of discovery and things. Let's just say there's a vaccine comes out next month, and all of a sudden, your booking agent calls and says, "Hey, gal, it's time to go back to work." Are you going to be ambivalent about that?
I'm going to go back on the road. Whenever that feels safe to me. Mm-hmm. But. Having a 3-year-old has it slowed my touring down in recent years on purpose. I did it because I wanted to, it just felt like too much to have a newborn and be on the road all the time, although we did tour for basically the first year and a half of her life. So I should take that back. But I don't want to be on the road as much. Like I would like to be on the road even less than I have been in the last few years. After having this experience, I want to be able to have a garden at home and to be able to cultivate my relationships here and not have them all be from a distance, although they kind of are right now. But we're doing front yard visits with friends, and we were supposed to be gone for 4 months, and now we're not. And there's something really just incredibly grounding about that. And some people find that being on the road is a grounding experience, and I maybe thought that a little bit, but now that I'm home, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever been grounded in this way before. This is my true nature. I really feel that it's this accepting who I am and not thinking about that sort of outward, like, oh, I'm going to go out into the world and play music and be some sort of, I don't know what, but I think I like the idea of being home and being a little Susie homemaker a little more often. Well, and I find the music part and the touring part to be important, but I think that it will feel just closer to my heart if I limit it a little bit more now and really take better care of myself and learn that self-compassion doesn't mean being selfish like that. I feel like that is like the term self-compassion is frowned upon, and I really am learning that it shouldn't be at all, that it's this place that we all need to find, and it really does make the world a better place. Yeah. Not to sound all sugary, but
well, congratulations on finding that, and congratulations on your 2 hours. Congratulations on the writing, and I just want to say that the line "I've been indigo dying" that is the most. That is that just when you say that that's a very tricky line, and I just you had me at that in the song, and. So,
thank you.
Well, best to you and to Danny and to Maisie. Thank you for being on, and I hope these songs come together and you get a real bitchin' record out of this. And I won't be able to. I
have no idea if that will happen, but I am thankful for the opportunity to be here with you right now, Grant. I respect everything that you do so much. You are a true inspiration to all of us, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Please say hello to Danny, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye, right, y'all. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Bye. Carrie Elkin, everybody. All right. We're starting a new segment here. This is very similar to what Carrie was just talking about, the neighbors and having the meeting with people. And I've decided to start a segment every month on clay tablets called My Neighbors. So we're going to have I had a neighbor come over the other day and came into my house wearing a mask, and we had a little talk, and I videoed it, and I'm going to ask Pete if he'll play it now.
Do you consider yourself somebody who lives on the streets?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, my comeback is that I'm not homeless. I'm houseless. Home is where the heart is, right. And I'm always home.
Right.
But it's been about 12 years since I've lived in say indoors under my own employment. Under my own paycheck.
Right. I've heard this distinction made between homeless and houseless. You're not being hyperbolic there. You think there is a real distinction there, and you would prefer to be called just the word homeless. Do you think that's pejorative?
Not necessarily. It just it helps me when people ask about it. It helps me establish a more human citizen to citizen,
right.
neighbor to neighbor
right.
connection to them.
Right. Well, I consider you my neighbor.
Yes.
I mean, you're just a neighbor, just like, I'm going out of town, you're going to water my plants, and, so we are neighbors.
Sure.
And you don't have a house.
Yes.
You're a neighbor without a house.
Yes, in a sense, I'm everyone's neighbor.
Right.
I'm very big on the values of neighborliness,
Right.
and generally people trying to be positive to one another.
That's an interesting thing. A houseless man is everybody's neighbor.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much for talking with me.
You're surely welcome, Grant.
That's my neighbor, Steve. Steve resides in the dugout behind third base in Levy Park in Midtown, Tallahassee. Here's a photo. We're going to put a photo up, I think, now of I took 10 days ago when I was walking in the streets of Tallahassee with the Black Lives Matter demonstration. I was the oldest one there. It was a street full of people. I took this picture. I only took one. I didn't make an Instagram event out of it. And after I was out there with these young people, I realized that I had made a philosophical error a number of years ago. And I actually marked that philosophical error with a song. And I'm going to sing that song for you now. This is called I Can't Imagine Him Carrying a Carbine. Carbine, also called carbine, is a short battle weapon. Well, I can't imagine him carrying a carbine. His hands are soft and his heart is small. His shallow eyes and his shallow breathing. I fear he's not fit to heed the call. Lonely, weary, lost and faithless, this is your begotten son. He has no soul and he can't be trusted to defend our revolution. His sad little mouth, it quivers as if searching for his mother's breast. He's crying out for his salvation and praying for the pain to lift. Flimsy little wings of plastic, and he's flying too close to the sun. When will the torch be handed over to this corn-fed child who's wired to run? Lonely, weary, lost and faithless, this is your begotten son. He has no soul and he can't be trusted to defend our revolution. I can't imagine him carrying a carbine. Yeah, I am overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed by the courage that I've seen from young people, commitment, the willing to take a punch, willing to stand up in the heat. And it has been of this whole thing, And wherever it turns out, that is the thing that has made the biggest impression upon me, is the courage and the commitment. And also just the wokeness and the awakenment of a kind of consciousness that had been under the waves for a long time. All right, well, I'm going to check back in with Donna. Are you there? Donna,
Yeah,
you?
sure.
Okay, good. So everything's still good with everybody?
Yeah, people are having a good time, really enjoying the segment. They especially enjoyed Carrie Elkin, I think.
I mean, I
A
wish.
lot of great comments.
Yeah, would have liked to have just kept her on. I've actually thought about, I just enjoy talking to these artists so much. I actually thought about maybe just doing a whole nother damn show, but I think so many people are doing that. But it was really great to be able to talk to her, and what a great song! Just an unbelievable song. And she's got more. I heard them the other night. I think we're going to go now, Donna. If you don't have anything else, I think we are going to go to our viewer mail segment. Is everything cool on your end?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, since this is our debut on YouTube Live, if you want to just write to Grant at grantpeeples.com and tell us what your experience was, particularly if it was negative, like you couldn't hear, you couldn't see, or whatever. We'd love to know.
Yep, that's very good. Yeah, we like it when people call us and tell us they loved it, but the most beneficial thing to us is when people call us and say that they're having a certain issue or a problem or a recommendation, and we really appreciate that. The mailbag was full this month, and I'm going to kind of breeze through it. I have a letter here from Linda Marie of Tallahassee. And she sent me quite a bit of stuff. I'm just going to pick this up. And I think it's very important. She has a translation here of a poem that was written 4,500 years ago. And this is part of those clay tablets that we're taught, of which this show is about. And this is called Lament to the Spirit of War, which is reputedly written by a Sumerian priestess by the name of Enheduanna. And she is the first known poet of history, man and woman. This is a poem about war. Lament to the spirit of war. You hack everything down in battle. You slice away the land and charge disguised as a raging storm. Growl as a roaring hurricane. Yell like a tempest yell. Thunder, rage, roar, and drum. Expel evil winds. Your feet are filled with anxiety. Like a fiery monster, you fill the land with poison. As a rage from the sky, you growl over the earth, and trees and bushes collapse before you. You're like blood rushing down a mountain, spirit of hate and greed and anger, you dominator of heaven and earth. Your fire wafts at our tribe, mounted on a beast with indomitable commands. You decide all fate. You triumph over all our rights. Who can fathom you? That was a poet talking about war. Got a note here from Mandy down in the St. Pete. Mandy is a scientist down there. And she and also a songwriter and a singer who's been doing some porch singing that I've really enjoyed. Every night she gets on the porch and sings and broadcasts that. She says, "Thank you so much for Clay Tablets. It is so needed in this altered state we are in. The time of the great unknowing," which kind of parallels what I believe Carrie was saying. Somebody sent me a book, a Leonard Cohen book, and I'm not really sure. I got quite a lot of stuff, and I'm not that greatly organized. But it came, and it had the little. It's a really nice book, and it's got the little thing in the middle. And I open it I don't know if it's a song or a poem, but it's Democracy. I'm just going to read you one verse. It's coming to America first, the cradle of the best and the worst. It's here they got the range and the machinery for change, and it's here they got the spiritual thirst. It's here the family's broken, and it's here the lonely say that the heart has got to open in a fundamental way. Democracy is coming to the USA. Leonard. Got something from John and Beth Courtwright, who I've known for a number of years. Met them with the Powell, Florida bunch, who you've heard me talk about so much. Thanks for making this pandemic survivable, they say, survivable. I heard from my friend Guy in California, in Santa Cruz. Guy and I are both members of a turtle tribe, and he's a great photographer and a photographer at the Woody Guthrie Festival, which is where I met him. He said, your latest show happened to fall on the day my mother passed. Then I saw your next show was scheduled on her birthday. It's like you planned it to cheer me up. Happy birthday to your mama, Guy. Another scientist, Kim Sash, from Havana, Florida, wrote and said, talking about the last show, she said, it was a great show. I loved the Buddha song. That's Gunning for the Buddha. And then she put in parentheses, even with a few mistakes. Steve, she's talking about Steve Poltz, is awesome. It's a cat game. Those mistakes were intentional, by the way. I was just seeing if you were paying attention. Larry, who lives down near St. Augustine, sent me he sent me two things. He sent me a book, and he sent me a rat's nest that he found up in his attic. It was a rat had made a nest inside a Crown Royal bag. And he just thought that I believe what he explained in his little note, which I left at home, was that the rat's nest was somehow symbolic of our times. And then he sent me this book called Cora in Hell, Improvisations, William Carlos Williams, which just happened to have been published in 1920, 100 years ago. And I opened it up, and William Carlos Williams, talking about his book, he says, I wrote all this, and then what was I going to do with it? It would mean nothing to a casual reader. And I knew this book was above my head. But there is just one thing I said. It said, of course, history is an attempt to make the past seem stable. And of course, it is all a lie. I also got a really nice note from my friend Michelle. And Michelle asked me if she requested, she requested a song. And I just want to say, Michelle, that song will be played on our next show in July. And that song is going to be a very special song for July 14th, which is Bastille Day. And I have been saving that very song for Bastille Day. And I hope you'll be able to tune in July. All right. So, let me see where we are. Did I get completely out of, I did not get out of, we're good. Okay, I'm going to show you a photo now. This is a thing that we've started. This is like my favorite photos. This is a photo I saw on the interweb, and to me, it's just, it's the best. I just love it. That's going to make it into a song somewhere. I just wanted to share that with you. And then I'm doing this part now where I'm showing my favorite piece of art of the month. And I would like to show you this piece of art, which is, in full disclosure, this is in my front yard. This is, I didn't make it, but I contracted this. The artist Matthew McCarran made this. I needed a scarecrow because that's a fig tree behind him, and the damn birds were eating my figs. We can't zoom in, but the hands of this scarecrow are just the absolute best, if you can kind of see them there. And I would like to report that I have not lost one fig or one cherry tomato to a bird since that scarecrow made its way into my garden. All right, I'm going to read a poem now. This is a poem I wrote 2 weeks ago. It is called City on a Hill. The Enlightenment revealed the individual and his naked, trembling mind. It was the age in which applications of rational thinking fed a distaste for the so-called God-appointed kings and the dictates of their brutal, implausible theologies. For millennia, the God game had been scripted for the benefit of bully power. But it was clear now, a man's destiny could be self-determined. One could cut one's own path through the unfolding narrative of creation, or one could not. A man, in a word, was free. Whether he likes it or not, Sartre would add later. But freedom of the individual begged the question of his relationship to society. Moral considerations notwithstanding, autocratic authority was presently invalidated by the machinery of logic and reason. But what then? Was every man therefore his own state, his own king, the enforcer of his own law? Was he beholden to nothing or no one? This sounded like a description for and a recipe for anarchy. Unless of course there was some construct by which men could be both free and governed. Here's where the legions of unbridled thinkers walked in. Among them, the fluffy French philosopher Jacques Rousseau. He suggested that the peace among men is maintained by a social contract, which is a tacit agreement between men and a state which they themselves create. Was with this instrument the chaos of every individual twisting and shouting to the beat of their own drum could be held in check, mitigated, or even transformed into progress. However, in the algebra of the endeavor, all men are called to sacrifice or surrender in equal portion various but certain freedoms, so as to secure the stability of the enterprise in their government and state. The right to raise hogs in the city, for example, might be consensually forfeited by each for the benefit of all, and by mutually forfeiting such freedoms, fair and equitably before the law, the people thereby established their collective selves as their own sovereign, whereby they would be ruled by law rather than men. What a revolutionary idea this was. What a concept for a world long dominated by the moods and whims of inbred syphilitic monarchs. But just how might such a bold idea become manifest? Enter here a new continent, whereupon a new nation was conceived, illuminated by fires of knowledge and working theory. It was conceptualized as a city upon a hill, a beacon for the advancement of humanity, a man-made nation built in the churning wake of the Enlightenment, and built with the very ideas and principles born of its arts and sciences. The founders of this nation were clear. It was an experiment, a constitutional test. It would ultimately be a measure of the nature of man himself, a determination about whether he could live civilly in a society of his own design once his interest ran contrary to the interest of others. With the ideas and principles of the Enlightenment now at play in the petri dish of human conflict, survive man's greed and insecurity, his attachment to comfort and mythology? Could he achieve this? Could he sustain this? Or would he soon be re-relegated to submit to the demands of kings, dictators, autocrats, and tyrants? Would the light remain lit, or would the world go dark again? All right. City on a hill. Okay, now we're coming back to this point in our show where I've told y'all about my friend Gurf Morlix introducing me to God in Winslow, Arizona a number of years ago. And let's see if I can find this. And I've been following God ever since Gurf introduced me to him. He is on Twitter, and I follow him every day here, and I'm just going to read you some of the tweets from God that we have had over the last little while. Here's one. This is on 1st of June. By holding it so proudly, the president made the Bible seem like a book whose integrity and truth could not be fully trusted. This is June 7th. The first step in overcoming racism is admitting that you have a problem. This usually takes 400 years or so. Here's one, I don't have the date on it. Yes, the Confederate flag is a symbol of slavery, racism, and oppression, but it's also a symbol of losers getting their asses kicked. Here's one just from a couple of days ago. The American flag is, in reality, a symbol of Americans' confusion between reality and a symbol. Here's another one. People who brag about not being politically correct tend also to be morally, factually, and grammatically incorrect. And the last one, if I didn't have strong gay and lesbian workplace protections, 2/3 of my angels would have quit a long time ago. Those are tweets from God. I encourage all of y'all to follow God on Twitter. I follow him and Donald Trump and Gurf Morlix. That's my. I got one other thing I want to read. I did a lot of reading tonight, but before I do this song, and as we're about to wind up tonight, I have a friend named Dawn who lives in Minneapolis, and I decided I was just going to write her and say, tell me what you're seeing. And she just wrote me back, and I'd just like to read this to you. She said, it has been interesting. It feels different. We went to serve food about a block off Lake Street last weekend. I'd been down to Lake in Chicago earlier in the week to drop off items that a former hotel being used as a shelter had specifically asked for. It was after a lot had been cleaned up, but it still looked surreal. We walked along Lake Street to see all the boarded up and fire-damaged buildings. We stopped at 38th in Chicago on our way home to pay our respects to George Floyd. It was incredible. There were notes and flowers everywhere. People had painted pictures and murals. There was a list of black victims of police violence covered with roses. There was a giant black fist in the center of the intersection, surrounded by flowers and notes. There was hugging and crying and talking, lots of talking. It was profound. Sam, that's her son, took a few photos, but we were really there to absorb it all. It brought tears to my eyes. I have friends of color. Never thought of myself as a racist, but I decided I needed to educate myself, so I'm reading now. I'm reading White Fragility first, and then I'm reading How to Be an Anti-Racist. I want to be an ally. I want to amplify black voices, and I want to be uncomfortable. That's from Dawn. So I'm going to play a song that we're going to close with this song. And this is a song that was on a record I did called Prior Convictions. And it is the only song I've ever written that really gave me pause about whether I was actually going to be able to write it or not. And I've only played it out one time. And the entire time I've had it, it's almost 10 years old now. And after we made this, we made a video out of it, and it lasted 8 hours, 6 hours, I think Donna said, on YouTube before it was taken down. It was taken down, and it was labeled as hate speech. But I am pretty much convinced that the people who said it was hate speech were the people that this song is really about. Well, you're a nigger lover, and I don't like your look. Just you wait till the school bell rings. I'm gonna whip your little nigger loving ass. Yeah, can't wait to smash your stupid face, and I hate your guts, nigger lover. Yeah, that's what they used to call me on the playground when I was a kid. But that was years ago, and all those kids have grown up, and they don't use that word anymore. Yeah, hardly. No, these days, they use other words. They say other things. They have other names for us. They say things like, you're a liberal, you're a socialist, a radical community activist. You gonna see in this next election, we're gonna snatch our country back for real Americans. We'll be proud again. We'll make America great again. We're gonna put an end to all you bleeding heart liberals. Yeah, those are the words they use nowadays. Those are the names that they call us. And it sounds good, but those people hadn't changed. And the names, well, they're just code. They're just disguises for what they really want to say. And we all know what they want to say. What they really mean is, you're a nigger lover, and I don't like your look. Just you wait till the school bell rings. I'm gonna whip your little nigger loving ass. Yeah, can't wait to smash your stupid face, and I hate your guts, nigger lover. You just wait. So thank y'all so much for being in here tonight. I want to send special thanks out to one of my real gold star patrons, Richard Smith, who has been majorly supportive of this, as well as to my father, who is our executive producer, to Pete Winter, who is our engineer. There is a video on YouTube. You might want to go check it out. Just, you can do Grant Peeples behind the scenes of clay tablets, and you can go there and check the video out, and it will show you all the equipment and what goes in behind this. Also, a special thanks to my sidekick, co-producer, and my ally, Donna Mavity, who has been with us on this. And again, a thanks to Carrie Elkin for coming on and talking with us tonight. We will be back the third Tuesday of July, which is July 14th, Bastille Day. We have a very special program that will be dialed up for you then. Thank all of y'all so much for being here. Be safe. We'll see you in July.